What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today I'm giving you the top 15 running backs in the 2024 NFL Draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We're on our way to 10K, so let's try to get there. And going right into this, so I decided to put up a Twitter poll. Feel free to follow me there, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I said, what do y'all want to see? Running backs, linebackers, or safeties? Those are the positions I haven't done yet. And running backs was the position that won by 1%. So, yeah, pretty intriguing. If you want to have your input, feel free to follow me over there. Go over 800 followers. And I like to speak about a lot of stuff. So if you want to see me even more because you love me, because I love you, then you guys can do that as much as you want. Let's get right into this. I am switching up the order. I usually go 1 to 15, but I realize that's stupid. Why am I doing that when everybody else goes 15 to 1? And it kind of makes sense to end on a high note. I kind of want to be excited about the last guy I talk about. So let's start out with Carson Steele out of UCLA. This kid's pretty damn good. I got to preface this. There's going to be a lot of these running backs on here that y'all are going to be pissed or as low as they are. But here's a simple fact. There are a couple gems that I really like. It's not saying that the running backs that are considered top 5, top 10 running backs that don't make it are not good running backs. I just found some guys who I'm really passionate about, and they're probably not going to be on very many people's top 5, top 10 lists. So bear with me. Y'all know that I am 100% honest with you. No matter what, I don't care if I am right initially, so long as I am honest. Integrity is key to my channel. I'm always willing to admit I'm wrong, but what I won't do is lie to you about a player. And Carson Steele, he's a fun guy to watch. He is a good back. I think that he will be a quality 7th round pickup. I think he will be a practice squad guy. And he just didn't wow me. He had some really good moments of nice acceleration. I'll break down the scale. It goes from most important down to the least important. Blocking is going to be a little bit trivial of a grade. It really doesn't impact the score that much. But it really is difficult based on limited game tape to truly understand how good of a blocker someone is. So that's more of a TBD category. But again, that's only 5% of the grading scale. Vision, that's how you end up carrying the ball. Like, do you see the pathways? I fell in love with Breece Hall because of his vision. And I think that's why even after an ACL tear, he is still extremely dominant compared to someone like Javonte Williams, who's still good. Not trying to make any claims here, but maybe he's not as effective as somebody like Breece Hall out the gate because of the vision differential. Javonte is still an incredible running back. I just think there is that little bit of a gap for our boy there, Breece Hall. Missed tackles fourth. That's what MTF stands for. Can you make a guy miss? Not can you punish a player, because we're going to have a couple guys on this list that have pretty poor missed tackles forced grades that do a pretty good job at making people pay for hitting them, but they don't shed the tackle. So that's what missed tackles forced means. And it's not based off of the quantity of missed tackles forced that they have on PFF. It is, how do you actually make guys miss? Because shitty arm tackles, which we'll talk about eventually, not necessarily going to, it's not going to be something you translate to the NFL. So that's why you can't fully trust or solely trust the statistic, even though it's a good reference. Receiving, it's receiving ability. Y'all know what it is. Long speed and burst. Burst is like how quickly can you accelerate? So it's acceleration. Balance is contact balance. Again, want to keep it simple so that, for graphics reasons. Fumbling, do you fumble? Whoop-de-doo. Blocking. So really the thing is agility is your change of direction. I think I skipped over that. Missed tackles force and agility. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But want to make sure that we are all on the same page there. The simple fact is Carson doesn't really do a very good job of breaking tackles. He's a fun back. He has enough athleticism to get into a hole and, be able to nifty his way around. But it's just not going to break the bank for me. I don't think it clears that NFL roster potential. Now, I'm more than happy to be wrong. Again, this is based on early 2023 tape and late 2022. He is a great running back for Ball State last year. I'm going to value the UCLA tape a lot more. And I didn't really love the tape that I saw. Now, C is average. That's very solid. Like, again, C's are not a negative. D's where it's like, yeah, you need to work on that significantly. But B's are very big attributes. That's a big tip of my cap. A's are where I really start saying this is what really separates this player and makes him a 53-man guy, makes him a potential starter type of player. But yeah, Carson's a good player. Montrell Johnson Jr. is my next back out of Florida. He was somebody who was kind of one of more of my guys last year. He does pop off here and there, but the simple fact is he's not consistent enough. I just only saw a couple of reps, and this is actually, I'm trying to base it, again, on 2023 tape because that's the player they are now. And even in the past game versus Tennessee, like he had 2 scores, but the change of direction just wasn't there. Even on that one route or that one goal line rep where he did a nice juke move to make 2 guys miss for a touchdown, the guys just took really bad angles. Like it was like Philo, choppy, choppy, chop, chop before making a cut. That's not really good center of gravity. Like you'll see guys like Barry Sanders, obviously an extreme example, but just to paint it in your mind, who could change on a dime, right? You see Saquon Barkley, they have that wide stance in that low center of gravity to where they can change directions just like that. So Montrell doesn't have that. He doesn't really make people miss. He slides out of arm tackles, which is nice. But the one thing that maybe I should boost it up eventually, but contact balance is key for me. Contact balance is, do you go down immediately on contact? Or are you that guy that, there's going to be like 5 dudes, like pause. There's going to be 5 different players trying to take the running back down, and he's pretty much carrying them through the sideline. The whistle blows, and then he's still on his feet. Like, that's the type of contact balance I'm talking about. Like Ezekiel Elliott, you're going to drive out a couple extra yards because they're not taking you to the ground and your legs keep churning. That's contact balance. Montrell doesn't really have that. Also, fumbling, that is based on pretty much a per 100 rep scale. And C's usually are going to be for 1 fumble per 100 reps, just to keep that in mind. But Montrell's a good athlete. He has very high level reps. It's just too few and far between for my liking. Number 13. This is the guy who I was prefacing. I like Braylon Allen. Like, let's get that out of the way. In no way, shape, or form am I shitting on Braylon Allen by putting him here at 13. I like Braylon Allen. Now, I'm a realist with Braylon Allen. He goes down way too quickly for how much of a monster he is. I think he is very Derrick Henry-like in having 10 very mid to subpar reps, getting 2 to 3 yards per carry, and then he'll just absolutely shellac the defense with a 90-yard run. I'm not putting that down. I'm saying that there is a role for that in the NFL. But in terms of looking at a running back holistically, you're very scheme specific to work like that, because not many offenses are going to give a guy who's averaging 3 yards per carry that 11th carry. And Braylon Allen's going to need that offense that needs that. Now, I think a team that is used to using A.J. Dillon, for example, would be a great spot. Derrick Henry, if you don't want to pay him, great example. Deontay Foreman, where he was there last year, good example. He's going to be a monster guy who can absolutely punish the defender. But he is not an all-around great running back. His receiving skills are not good. I saw this dude drop like 3 balls in a couple of games. I'm like, my guy, like, catch the ball. Just watch the ball in. He's not a good route runner whatsoever. But the one thing I do like is he is quite reliable. He's not going to fumble the ball very often. Based on a B, that's roughly probably a 150 carries per fumble rate, or it's an extremely high usage type of case. But, Braylon Allen, his unique ability are these little minute direction cuts. Like, he does it very fluidly. The problem is he doesn't move sideways very well. Like, he's surprising in terms of how agile he is at 245 pounds. Like, he's surprising about how agile he is. But that doesn't mean, holistically, compared to the agile backs, that he is an agile running back. For his size, very agile. But for a running back, not so agile. Still C+. Incredible. Like, that is a legitimately commendable grade. It's just not an NFL starter grade if you're looking for a 3-down running back. This guy's going to be a workhorse power back in a system that fits him well. Not in every NFL scheme. So that's why he's there. I want to spend a little bit more time because Braylon Allen, he does have a role in the NFL. It's just not many teams that he fits. And Trayvion Henderson, this is also going to piss some people off. I just didn't really fully get excited about him. I have it written down in my notes that I saw a lot of RB4 with him, like not RB4 in this draft, but a lot of running back 4 on an NFL roster. So I think he can make an NFL roster. Let's not get that out of the question. I think that, for a team, maybe like the Ravens, for example, he could be like one of those depth running backs that stays on the roster that you just don't hear about. And then, God forbid JK gets hurt again and Justice Hill is a little banged up. Then you might start seeing guys like Trayvion Henderson being mentioned in those names. Of course, I didn't put that as any of my dream fits, which I forgot to continue talking about. My dream fits. Don't take them too seriously. They're there for fun. But Trayvion Henderson is, you look at teams that could definitely use that depth at running back. And I'm looking at either teams with limited running back help, which, to be fair, the Vikings did just bring on Cam Akers, but this was made before that. Not this video, but this deck, which I don't think it counts out him, to be 100% honest. But anyhow, with Nick Chubb, God bless his soul. That was one of the worst injuries I've ever seen. But, with his potential, longevity at risk, this is just somebody who's going to be able to come in. Saquon has some injury issues as well. It's just a guy who can come in and assist where need be. I do like the fact that he picks his holes quite well. I don't think it's at an elite level. Again, that's why I'm saying RB4 on an NFL roster. I think Braylon Allen could be a really good RB2. Maybe an RB1 in a situation where it fits it perfectly, i.e. the Derrick Henry role, which only one team has. Regardless, this guy does not make people miss. That's it. He just doesn't. He's very solid all around. He's a reliable guy. He's twitchy. I think that there's a lot of these running backs that will have pretty low long speed grades that you will probably think, really? But when I see defenders, especially defensive linemen, who can catch these guys, I do have to knock them down a little bit. Again, C is average. That's still a 6 out of 10 for speed. That's not bad. But again, let's just pipe down. And again, balance, not necessarily there. Not there, but, again, it's the missed tackle forced game. If you can't make a guy miss, there's a potential limited upside for you. Again, guys like Braylon Allen can punish. I don't think Trey Henderson can punish. Did I misspell that? No, I didn't. Okay. I wanted to make sure. Then we got Donovan Edwards, another one that's going to piss a lot of people off. And again, I like Donovan Edwards. Let's make that very clear. I like Donovan Edwards. The thing that people need to understand is that Donovan Edwards runs through beautiful holes in the offensive line. And he is not that fast. Because I saw Zach Harrison in the same frame running stride for stride with him. Now, I love the fact during the Ohio State game, he was playing with pretty much a hand cast on. Respect. I think this guy will be a nice RB3 or RB2 on a good roster. He's an amazing complement back. That's not taking anything away from him. Now, he does have fumbling issues, which, to be fair, probably because his hand was injured. So let's take it with a grain of salt now. But, he is somebody who will keep those legs churning. He's honestly one of the more underrated route runners. That was a weird thing. I noticed that. I was like, wow, this guy's running out routes really well. And he does know how to change directions very well. But just got to call it as it is. He's running through beautiful holes. It is not his vision that gets him those monster run lanes that people will continue to bring up. That offensive line does a phenomenal job. Hence why I really loved Olusegun-Oluwatimi. And it's why I really like Zach Zinter, especially giving Zach an A grade in run blocking for that reason specifically. They had some monsters on the offensive line. It made it a lot easier for them to operate that offense. Do like Donovan Edwards. I do. But let's pipe down a little bit. I just don't feel like I need to explain too much about why he would fit a team that's kind of looking for a complement back. The Rams, he and Kyron Williams would be quite nice. It does limit the upside in terms of the speed. But Damian Harris' role is going to be perfect for Donovan Edwards there in Buffalo. And the Ravens, I just always see the Ravens as a team that could use it. And, they have plenty of ties to Michigan. So there you go. Frank Gore Jr., of course, I forgot to put the freaking logo. I spent so much time on the deck just to forget one damn logo. Regardless, Frank Gore Jr. is next out of Southern Mississippi. He is electric, right? Now, he had, I think, a 300-something yard game in a bowl game last year. To end off the year, he set records. Awesome. I watched that game. I'm pretty sure it wasn't against Liberty because I watched that game as well. I think it was against Rice. He did a phenomenal job. Here's the thing. He had 83 missed tackles forced last year. 83. But this year, he has 3 and is averaging like 3 yards per carry over 3 whole games. And you're not playing very good teams. The simple fact is, I watched Frank Gore, and I watched 3 games last year. Liberty, Rice, Miami. And Miami was atrocious. I honestly almost didn't put him on the list. And I said, you know what? Let's just see how he performs against worse talent. Let's just see. Maybe this was a fluke game. It was early in the year. Did pretty damn well against Liberty. And then I was like, all right, well, let's watch Rice. Did phenomenally against Rice, right? I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm excited. This guy is super shifty. He has breakaway speed. Like, he has really good vision down the field. But I kept having this weird gut feeling that's like, he did that against very subpar teams. And the one team that had NFL talent, he performed really poorly against. Then I saw the stats this year. Not good. Not good at all. I mean, legitimately depressing. I think he's 2.9 yards per carry. And that scares the living hell out of me because I also ended up watching some of the games during this year, and it was just uninspiring. The other running back looks like he might be better. I haven't studied him. That's why he's not on this list. But I might want to throw his name into the hat. Just going to put that out there. But you can't deny what has been put on the field has been some really good tape. There's just major discrepancies between his good play and his bad. And I'm excited for him to get back to where he was versus Rice. But so far, that hasn't happened. And I got to call it as it is. But still a top 10 running back. Could be a valuable asset, especially if he ends up breaking out. Next, we got Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. So this guy, he has a major issue when it comes to how fast he hits the line of scrimmage. I realized that in multiple games I watched. This guy approaches the line of scrimmage way too slow. And in the NFL, you need to, even like patience is rewarded, right? You figure out the hole you're supposed to go into, you find the hole, and then you slice and dice, right? That's been rewarded since Le'Veon Bell, probably before that. But that's when I really started getting into like analyzing running backs and shit. So Le'Veon Bell popularized it, or made it cool, at least for the younger generation. Now, he takes that to the extreme. He goes way too slowly because their offensive line is really damn dominant. So I gotta call that as it is. Does feel a little Zach Charbonnet-y. Does have a really poor blocking style, though. He had a couple good reps in there, but PFF-wise, this guy's like a 19 grade in terms of blocking. So just gotta call it as it is. Don't think that again, this is not an empirical stat. That is definitely more quantitative than anything. So don't overvalue it. But this dude definitely has a big issue with ball control over, I believe he came from South Carolina. No, it's Marshawn Lloyd. I'm slipping up where he came from, but multiple fumbles. Like, I think he's on a 75 carry, like per fumble basis, which not great. Again, 100 is like my limit to where I start feeling a little bit more comfortable about a college back, because again, you're not having guys who are trained snipers of the football going at it. So gotta keep that in mind. But one of the best contact balances in the game, like, really does keep his legs moving. After the line of scrimmage, his vision is very, very good. And that's good to see, because a lot of times these guys with really good offensive lines, they poach a lot of stats because they're running through open holes that are schemed. He does a good job after the line of scrimmage. So you got to give him credit where credit is due. He is a very talented back, but I do have some critical flaws, and that is primarily due to fumbling as well as getting up to the line of scrimmage way too slow. So there y'all go. But again, the team, like, I just feel he's going to be one of those value backs that I totally see the Raiders or Steelers just snagging a value back, and I think he'd be a good combo to Dameon Pierce. Devin Neal, I forgot to put the damn Kansas logo. I knew I did something wrong. There was like 2 logos that I was waiting to do. Forgot to do them. So sorry, Kansas fans. A lot of people love Devin Neal. I like him quite a bit. As you can tell, an entire side of the damn screen is yellow. Like, he's a good back. I think he similarly does not get to the line of scrimmage extremely quickly. That's a weird trait. I saw him back to back. I'm like, am I like messing up here? Then I ended up watching some more running backs. I was like, okay, no. Like, they just genuinely don't hit the ground running as fast as they should. And they don't accelerate as fast as they should. I think Devin Neal, when he gets to top speed, is wonderful. Again, this is a really good back. But the acceleration, he can get caught from behind because he's not reaching his top speed as fast as he should. There's not really much to nitpick about Devin Neal besides that, solid vision. He can pick people apart downfield. And, maybe I'd wish that he could drill out a couple more yards because at 5'11", 210, you do have a physical frame to where you can push through somebody. But, this guy is a very talented back. I don't really have much to nitpick on him. He's a good back, deserves to be an RB2 on a squad. So there are a couple teams right there that could certainly use him. Will Shipley is next out of Clemson. He's a fun guy because he has top tier vision. Like, he's picking the right lane almost every single play. He can make guys tackle air. Those are two key traits, which is why he is here. My guy's ass as a receiver. He had a tipped interception, and then he dropped a game deciding ball. That's a pretty big deal to me. That's a huge deal. Like, when you're the reason your team loses, that's a big issue. And then he has fumbling concerns as well. So his hands are a big issue. But I actually thought that he looked a little bit slower. He just was very, very explosive, which is good to see. When you have a capped speed limit, that does limit the role that you can have in the NFL. But the ability to burst through a hole and change your speed up dramatically really does mess with the defenders' minds, but also it allows you to have that slight physical advantage in a short range that you're going to need in order to make guys miss. And I think that's a big reason why he has a lot of missed tackles forced. So good for him. I think he needs a lot more in terms of overall reps because he's in a pretty heavy timeshare where he didn't even get touched for a quarter. But that's also because he's probably not a good receiver. That's just what happens. So excited to see him improve in that category. I hope he gets in the jugs machine and improves because, you have some really rare traits to like just be able to make guys tackle air and see the path properly. So good for him, but have to bring that up. This is one of my guys who I really, really love, and that's a Jace McClellan. I didn't really expect to like him. He was one of those dudes who it was at 2 a.m. I was like, all right, let's end on a high note, right? Not really. I was just like fuck it. I kind of feel like I want to do one more eval. And then Jace was there. I'm like, all right, let's see what it is. And this guy's awesome. Honestly, he picks the right holes. He is tenacious. He punishes defenders because he's a powerful runner. He is feisty as hell. And he's not that bad in terms of receiver. There was actually a ball that was missed by why do I want to call him Joe Milton so badly? But y'all know who I'm talking about, the quarterback. I don't know why I'm slipping up right now. But the quarterback missed him by probably a yard, maybe a couple feet. And that was a touchdown on a wheel route. Like, he has some good top end speed. Like, there's not really much I feel like is an issue with him. I think that the main area that I have a concern with is, like, you can punish and you can, push forward for those extra couple yards, which is wonderful. That's a very valuable trait in the NFL. But you gotta get those missed tackles. Like, you have to instead drag the guy an extra yard, slip your ankle out, and then run for another 5. Like, that is going to be something that determines whether you're going to be an RB2 or an RB1 in the NFL. Can you get those extra yards by slipping the tackle? Don't think he's there yet, and that's honestly his only issue. So really fun. Again, I felt like I was seeing a little bit of Josh Jacobs just by the way he could plant his foot, and then he would punish. He would absolutely punish every tackler for going at him. Really reliable as well. So overall, a very talented back with one critical flaw that might keep him from being a number 1 running back. Now we're going to the guys who I think could be true RB1s. Marshawn Lloyd's a freaking monster, and I knew I forgot to change one letter on him. That D should be red. See how critical I am? That's how much I love y'all. I'm getting mad at myself for not coloring a D red. No one would have noticed. Regardless, Marshawn Lloyd, if he didn't have a fumbling concern, because this dude was he was also former South Carolina, he has a bit of a fumbling issue. But this dude is a freak. He has the best vision that I might have studied. He's up with Breece Hall territory of vision. Just ridiculous ability. This guy is an athlete, left, right, and center. Maybe he will cap out at like a top speed of 21 miles per hour, maybe 20. But this dude might have a 4.38 40. Like his acceleration to that top speed is incredible. And you see it on tape. This guy is an absolute weapon. I could totally see him being the best back in the class. That fumbling issue is the difference. I think a D is about a 5 out of 10. So, if he gets that up to a 7, instantly he's competing with the next guys. And, especially if he ends up, finishing some of those moves, because he really is someone who can just break the angle to where he's having to break arm tackles rather than, taking on a guy full speed and then breaking the tackle. He could certainly continue to improve. An excellent back. Again, you see the grades, so I don't really need to explain that to you, but this dude really could be something special. I do want him to stay up on his feet a little bit more because I think he relies a little too much on his athleticism to get those yards rather than the pure power that he can generate, because 5'9", 210, that's a really compact frame. He can have a lower center of gravity, and I'm hoping he definitely gets that. Rocket Raheem Sanders is next. Technically these guys are all moved up one spot for the next guy, Blake Coram, that we'll talk about, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a rundown when that happens. But Rocket Sanders is incredible. He's another one of those guys where I was just jaw dropped. Not a good receiver. Again, that's probably why he's not in that RB1 territory. But at 242, I genuinely, before seeing that stat, thought he was 202 pounds. He looks like that, but just thinking back in my memory, he looks 242. Looking back in my memory, I just remember seeing him like, wow, this guy moves very uniquely for a back. But, I just wish he had a little bit more weight to him, like rather than being this shifty. The thing is, he has that weight. He's incredible. And, I'm just so excited to see what he's going to do in the NFL. I do think a lot of these running backs don't seem to have a super high top speed. We're not seeing those burners who will be kick returners essentially, but it doesn't really matter. In the NFL, it's these guys who will be able to chunk out 20-yard gains because they can burst through a hole, and then as a corner or a safety hits them from behind, and it's like you're still making a massive play, and this is what this guy's going to do. He's a freak show, and like there's just something so special about seeing a player of this size have this type of movement skill. If I had to put a comparison, I'd probably go for Saquon Barkley, but probably like the Target version. If Saquon is Whole Foods, we're going to say that he's Target, maybe Sprouts. So really fun player to watch. And somebody, like, you can see my Steeler homerism coming in. Just somebody I'm really hoping to go to a role that can use him for 20 touches a game. I'm so excited to see what he's going to do. I think he's going to get underdrafted, and just somebody who I have a ton of faith in. Next, we have Blake Coram here. I have an asterisk because I haven't regraded him. So that's why I got to put that in there. He graded out very, very well for me last year. He was my RB1, and he still might be my RB1. The God honest truth is that I don't know who he is after the ACL tear. We have quite a few games that he played, but it's against nobodies. I want to see who are you versus top-end talent the way I saw you last year. I think that's perfectly fine. Donovan Edwards, he's still the same physical profile that he was last year. Coram had a legitimate injury. So I just got to mention that in there, but still top end back. I'm not going to talk too much more about it because, again, haven't studied the player he is today. Then we got Bucky Irving. Man, this guy had a little bit more athleticism, and he's still a good athlete. I just think he might be capped a little bit in terms of athleticism. This guy could be a freak show. He is a missed tackle force machine as well. Just some of the moves, these spin moves are so quick, so polished, and his vision is spectacular. I had a tweet that said he might be better than Bijan. I don't believe that, especially since, my grade supports that. Bijan was noticeably higher, even with a fumbling concern. But, those high-level reps are spectacular, and I think he could be a true RB1 on a team. Only running back with an A+ in fumbling grade. I don't know if he's fumbled in college yet, or he might have had one fumble on 300 carries. Spectacular. Really spectacular player. I don't think he's great as a route runner, just nothing that's really exciting. But, overall, just a player that you really want on your team. And somebody that is going to continue rising up a lot of people's boards. Now, this is the player I want to end off on, Trey Benson, man. Shout out to Broshmo because he was the first one to mention his name. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't have found Trey Benson. I like watching Florida State, and Trey Benson pops off every single game. But just got to give credit where credit is due. Trey Benson is just such a fun back. Like, he moves so fluidly. Like, part of me wants to say Joe Mixon, but more finesse. Like, that's just my gut instinct. But there's just not a good enough comp for him. And it's a rare level of shiftiness that he has, a rare level of control over his body. Just top tier athlete, understands how to move in space, sees the hole properly, not a bad receiver, and is reliable. There's not much you can complain about Trey Benson. You see a C+ and a C in blocking. It's just because, again, statistically, not many of these backs are going to get super high grades. And, you're not going to be blocking too much for a scrambling quarterback. So not very many opportunities there. But, he's not Deuce Vaughn in terms of rounding a route like a wide receiver. But he's still good. He's still usable in the pass game. He's going to be an awesome player. And, I'm looking at teams that could look for a legitimate RB1. I tossed the Ravens in here a lot of times. I'm scared shitless as a Steelers fan because I think they could totally be in the market for with the second round pick saying, hey, running back is a position that we could really use. They're seeing the value of someone who can create in space with Zay Flowers. Trey Benson could be right up their alley. So keep your eye out for that. If anybody's going to be a first round pick, it probably is going to be Trey or Rocket Sanders. But it's a really good class. I hope you enjoyed who should have been on the list as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.